So I'm just going to hand over to David Browning from Fair Bite Townsville.
Thanks, Crystal. My name is David Browning, and I'm going to tell you about the Smart Coffee project. This is just a small project, and really it's a story about how people in our community can come together and do things which might make a difference on a day-to-day basis. It's almost a fairy tale, you could say, because in the end, everything works out really well. So the Smart Coffee Project is a group of volunteers who decided they would go around and collect coffee grounds from coffee shops and do something sensible with them other than having them go into landfill. The problem with organic material going into landfill, as I'm sure most of you know, is that once it starts decomposing without oxygen anaerobically, it creates a lot of methane. And I think everyone knows since the Glasgow conference last year that methane is really, really bad. Our first idea was that we would collect relatively small amounts of coffee and package them and distribute them through garden centres, and that people would use them in their gardens. A couple of us realised that this was not going to amount to very much, and perhaps even with the best will in the world, we might only get maybe a couple of hundred people involved if we were lucky. So our first bit of good fortune and the first player in this story was a company called Atlas Soils. Atlas Soils has a facility out at Mount Low where they make humus. And the humus that they make is probably 3 times more effective than compost. It's a soil improver. It increases the biological diversity in the soil. Humus is a product which is very different from fertilizer. Fertilizer is like giving Red Bull to kids, right? There's this spurt of energy, and then it dies off pretty quickly. Humus feeds the soil and the soil provides the nutrients which the plants can utilize, and once you put it in, it's there. It's there forever, and yes, you might want to increase the amount over time, but it's there for a very long time. Their product was a bit lacking in nitrogen, and we knew that coffee has large quantities of accessible nitrogen, so it was a perfect fit. We spoke with them on a Friday lunchtime, and by the Monday we were collecting coffee on their behalf. And then we had the second bit of good fortune. The council decided they would loan us some of these, have we got them here? No, we don't. Some of the large Fogo bins in which we could collect the coffee. So that was very gracious of them. Unfortunately, that's not a good part of the story, because from the first few shops which we engaged, we actually collected rather a lot of coffee. I think the first time we collected around about 400 kilos. And the problem with putting this into these bins is that the bins became extremely heavy. You couldn't move them. When we got them out to Mount Low on a trailer, first of all, we'd broken the trailer. Secondly, we needed a forklift to get them off the trailer. So that didn't work, but we persisted because we didn't have another way of doing things. So welcome to the party, the third player in this, which is North Queensland Trailer Hire. They give us a tipper, a 2-ton tipper, twice a week, plus fuel, plus insurance, and that's what we use to collect the coffee. Okay. So we now collect from 14 shops, coffee shops in Townsville. Does anyone know how many coffee shops there are in Townsville? It's around 200. Okay. And yes, we do have some of the big ones. And with our volunteers, twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, we go out and we collect the coffee. We now collect, on average, about 1,300 kilos a week. Okay. So what does this actually mean? Well, to put it in context, TerraCycle, which collects all the non-Nespresso coffee pods for the whole of Australia, last year collected 26 tons of coffee. We're going to collect 60 tons in our first year, just in little old Townsville. We also have what we call community engagement clients. So these are very small coffee outlets. They might only be providing 10 or 15 kilos a week, but they want to be part of it. And this brings me on to another very important point. The people who work in the coffee shops really want to be part of it. They're mainly young, and maybe that explains quite a lot, but there's a real passion there. What does it all mean? Well, from what we do, we're collecting coffee waste from about 32,000 cups of coffee drunk in Townsville a week. This is actually a tiny portion. We collect around about 6% of the coffee waste that is produced in Townsville every week. In a year, we collect 60 tons. Townsville imports 660 tons of coffee in the form of raw beans. Okay, so it's tiny, but there's problems with capacity, and this is where you lot come in. So what do we need? We need more volunteers to help collect the coffee. It's not a huge onerous thing, but we need regular volunteers, possibly once per fortnight. If we had enough, it would be once a month. And it's a morning's work on a Tuesday or Friday. And I've got some leaflets over there. So those people who are interested, please take one. And we hope we get 1 or 2 volunteers. We do have some volunteers here already. So they're excluded from the prize, which I'm going to give to the first person who convinces me that they're going to be a regular volunteer. It's a bag of the HumiSoil, of the humus, a 20-kilo bag. So I hope that's enough incentive for 1 or 2 people to come forward. Thank you to the volunteers who are already volunteering. If no one comes forward, one of them will get the bag. I'm looking at you, Linda, but you've got to use it. Okay, that's me. Thanks very much.